5 is a flaw question, so let's try to figure out very carefully what the premises are, what the conclusion is, and try to preempt the answer choice if you can. That's always the best way to do it. So let's see. So this lady argued that the universe began with explosion of primeval atom, okay? Singular point of infinite gravity in space and time. So if this is correct, our science writer says, if this theory is correct, then our current observation should reveal galaxies accelerating away from one another, and this is precisely what we observe. Great, right? So this theory predicts, right? L's theory predicts a certain thing, X, right? So if your theory predicts a certain thing, X, and then we look out into the empirical world and find that not X, then your theory is wrong, right? But if we find X, if we actually find what you predict, then your theory becomes a little bit stronger, right? Then, it survives another day, so to speak. Yet there's another theory called the oscillating universe theory, O theory, that makes exactly the same prediction, also predicts the same thing, X. Okay, so then X is also, so therefore what? Therefore, L's theory must be considered inadequate. What? How are you a science writer? All right, you know what? You're just a writer. This is a terrible, terrible argument, right? I mean, I hope you can see why this is a terrible argument, right? Two theories, both predict the same thing. Okay, empirically observed corroboration of this prediction. Therefore, you just arbitrarily pick one that's wrong? What the hell? All right, anyways, I'm not really even sure how you can, how the LSAT writers are going to describe the stupidity that we just witnessed, but let's see. The conclusion is derived partly from assertions, right? The conclusion that you're just wrong, right? Is derived from this description, the premise, right? You got to describe the premise. From assertions attributed to purported expert whose credibility is not well established. Nope, that doesn't describe the premise. Nobody's like, oh, L isn't really an expert, right? That's not what the premises say. The conclusion is based on a shift in meaning key term. Nope, there's no shift in meaning of any key terms. Science writer takes for granted the existence of a causal connection between observed phenomenon. Well, yeah, I mean, this is true. This is descriptively accurate, right? I mean, these two fail on the descriptive accuracy test, right? You remember the flaw is a two-step test, right? You got to accurately describe, and you have to accurately describe the flaw. So these two don't even describe the argument. The argument doesn't do what A and B says the argument does. The argument does do what C says the argument does, right? Which is that the science writer, I think it does take for granted the existence, right? No, the writer does take for granted that the existence of a causal connection between observed phenomena, because if you want to write about science, you have to presume causation is a thing, right? But that's not the error of this argument. Stupidity is the error of this argument, right? D says the science writer fails to see that one theory's correctly predicting observed data, that's this theory, the oscillating universe, correctly predicting observed data, cannot itself constitute evidence against an alternative theory that also predicts data. That's exactly right. That's exactly the correct description of the error that the writer has made, right? The writer's blind. The writer presumes without providing justification that there are only two possible explanations for phenomena in this question. But, the writer presents us with only two, right? Because the writer presents us with this theory and this theory. That doesn't mean the writer presumed there are only two, right? This writer is crazy. Who knows what this writer is presuming?